Here are the shoes. I've cut the cookies. I've made a little hole using a piping tip, and then I piped here this shape. I made a template out of cardstock, and then I just did my shape here in fuchsia, and now I'm going to dust it all in black airbrush. Here's the look I'm going for. So these are the two same colors icing, just the top section has been dusted in black airbrush. Here I piped some fuchsia at the edge of the heel because I want the heel to be black and I want it to contrast, and the under the shoe here is going to be black again, contrasting. So now I'm just going to fill in all the shoes. I'm leaving here an edge for the black heel. Here are all the completed shoes. As you can see, the color, it's interesting when you dust it with the black. It will not achieve the same finish if I added black to the icing. It would just made it muddy. Alright, so I'm going to be making the heel in black and the detail in black. Here's the prototype cookie. Here's what it looked like. So here I've done the heel in black. This is fuchsia. This area of fuchsia was dusted with black airbrush. I dusted the fuchsia area as well as this one here in pearl before I did the black because I wanted the black to stay flat. And then here, as you can see, I did lace, and because I dusted it in black, it gives the impression of, I find it looks more like lace. And so I'm going to decorate the cookie to show you how I did the final touches on this design. Here, the hole on my prototype cookie, I find it's too big. I want to draw a ribbon through there, and it's a little bit too big. I used an icing tip, and then on this one here you can see it's much smaller. And if I use a fat ribbon, it'll kind of hide the hole, mask the hole. Alright, here is my rough drawing of the cookie that I had in mind. I traced the cutter and then just sketched on it and used it as my template. Here we go. So first thing I'm doing is I'm creating a line to hide the seam here between the two colors. And what I'm doing is brush embroidery, just very fast, nothing fancy. I'm just spreading here the icing up. And make sure your brush isn't too wet because of the dusting of the airbrush, if you have one. If you don't have an airbrush, you could dust it with black luster dust, or petal dust I should say, and it'll create a very similar effect. You dust it on lightly, and like I said before, if you create this section first and then you can dust and not worry about it getting on the other area. I find that the brush gives it a little bit more of the look of lace. I'm not adding any water on the brush. I'm just wiping it with my hand. Like I say, because I did the airbrush, the surface is very fragile, and if I added any extra moisture, I would ruin the surface of my finish on my cookie. I don't know if you can see here. I'll bring it up close. Next row is, I'm using a 1.5 if you're curious. I don't, like I've said before, I think I don't like to use smaller. For me, I just find it's needless squeezing. Unless you're working on a microscopic cookie, I've not found it necessary. I'm turning the cookie this way because I'm creating dots, and I find it's easier if I dot out and pull in. So just simple dots like all my cookies seem to have. And now here I'm doing a tier, an open tier, and kind of a curve shape here. I want to give the look that the shoe I should say, has lace on the edge of it. Now I'm doing dots here. So what I'm doing is I'm squeezing a dot and skipping a space, and I'm going to come back and do the dot in the middle. The reason I'm skipping is so that it gives it a little bit of time to dry, and it'll give the dots time to just keep their shape. If I do a dot right away, like a shell border type thing, they'll fade into each other. You have to have the exact perfect icing consistency. So this way here, it'll just give it that little bit of time to dry, and then they won't melt together. Here I'm just going to do a line to hide the seam again. I don't like the way that looks, so I always finish it off. So there's all the dots, and now I come back, and in between each dot I do the other dot, and it gives it more definition, and they don't melt together. And there we go. Oh, I forgot. You see here I had done dots, more dots along the edge. I thought it was missing something, so I'm going to add those. So it's small, small, big. There's no wrong design. Here I just wanted to show you, step by step how I did this cookie. It was for a swap. Some of you might have seen it on Flickr. I wanted to give you an idea of how someone can achieve an elaborate design. It just takes a little planning. And there you go. So I'm going to show you the final step to the cookie, which is just tying the ribbon. You can see the hole here. I made it with an icing tip, and it creates this nice, clean looking hole. And so now I've cut the ribbon at an angle, and I'm going to fold it and pass it through the top of the cookie because the hole is a bit wider. And I'm only going to get a little peek in the back there, and I'll be able to pull it through. And there we go. So I'm going to pull, I don't know, here I have about 4 inches through, and I'm going to tie just like that. Now I flip the cookie upside down, and I put my tail down, and I pass it through the bow here, and this here, there we go, just a simple little bow. And I haven't cut the ribbon off the roll yet because I don't know how long I'm going to need, and I don't like to have a bunch of scraps. So there we go. I'm cutting it now, and there we go, the finished shoe cookie with a fancy bow.